afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I am your host, Brian Carter. And guys, Bass Geek is back in the house. We're all kind of back in the house. Pretty good, even though, we're glad Thomas is back after 84 expos this year that he has done. What probably we could say, we don't want to say 84 episodes, probably like 84,000 hours of expos.
Yeah.
Are you expoed out yet, Thomas?
So many handshakes and conversations. Even for me, it was a wear on the voice.
Holy cow! I don't know how you did it. You're a better man than I did. An expo 1 year in Richmond, and I manned a booth, and I felt like I was chained to the jailhouse wall, and I'll never do it again unless someone pays me a buttload of money. And I'm not gonna lie, because it was just bad. And I learned a lot. I ain't gonna lie, because I just set up a table and thought I'd do my thing, and feet started hurting. And I looking around, everybody's got these inch rubber mats laying on the ground and all this other crazy stuff. But yeah, you do have one more expo though, right?
I got 2 more expos. Luckily, I have a reprieve. I have a holiday weekend, so I can figure out how to get my motor fixed on my boat, because eventually we won't have ice and snow up here, hopefully. But yes, we have the kayak fishing show at Jake's Bait and Tackle. Really cool. You can't bring a brand new kayak. It has to be a pimped out version. We have a river. We have a under $2,000 rig division. We have a kids division, a river rat division, and then just whatever go to town, as much money as you threw at it. So the owner of Jake's liked car shows growing up, so he thought, what if we did that with kayaks? And I was like, that's a pretty neat idea. And then I go to Fishing Pro Tech in Williamsburg. The guy there, Lynn, he was I think he was the second person in the United States to bring over Japanese baits. And he's had the head of Megabass and Nori's at his shop. So he's doing an open house. So that'll be a lot of fun too.
That is awesome. You guys talking about pimping kayaks and, making them look all good. We got Mr. Paul Gring on with us tonight, and with Just Rig It. And he's going to talk all about that tonight. What's going on in the world of kayak, the electronics that we put on our kayaks and our boats. He's going to talk about that and rigging your kayak, like we said. But Geek, what's up with you, man?
Not anything out of the unusual. More videos, more stuff, more shorts. We're just, as I always say, we're just banging and slinging the content out. The weather is making it a little interesting. I've got to work Thursday night, and I was hoping I was off this weekend. And coming up, I was hoping I was going to get at least a day to get out there and film without snow or ice. So I guess I'll just not sleep and grab the boat as soon as I get off work Friday morning and go straight to the lake, do a little fishing, do a little filming. So
that's awesome, because they are calling for this will be our air, but they're calling for rain again this weekend here.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to rain. I think I just looked at it a little while ago, all day Saturday into Sunday.
Yep.
So guys, here, man, I ain't gonna lie to you. You got to be safe. Trees are falling everywhere. Power lines are going down everywhere. Thank God we all have power, which is great, because a lot of people do not have power tonight. And I've got a couple coworkers that don't have power tonight. So they're living on generators right now.
You guys got hit up there with the wet, heavy snow, right? Well, see, I was lucky. It kind of went all the way around us, but it just rained for us. So it was
that's all right. Good. We got the wet, heavy snow. Then it turned to ice for about 5 or 6 hours yesterday, and then it turned to rain, and it has rained all day. But the bad thing is, ground's already saturated enough here.
Yeah.
And you're watching. You're not just watching trees fall, you're watching whole root systems fall at the ground. I mean, it's that freaking crazy around here. Go ahead, Thomas.
So the question I'll have for you guys, is this the last gasp of winter? And after this, do you think?
Man, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I hope so.
My gut this is it.
Well, my mom, she's one of those people. She's old school mountain people, and she believes that we have all these winters. I can't even tell you. So we'll get I'd say, we had that warm up, and who knows what this winter is. And then it's like, I don't know what all it is. It's like, blackberry and, this winter and that winter. And so the way it happens down here is we always get a little bit of warm up, and then it goes right back to being cold for a week. And then we get a little bit of a warm up, and then right back to cold again. So And from what I can see, we're not even going to reach the average temp, which is about 50, 51 here. And that's closing in on the end of the month around, 2 weeks now. So it's going to stay a little below average for us down here.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. And, this past Sunday, guys, I opened up the tent. I aired it out, cleaned it out, made sure everything was good. And then they canceled the English Choice tournament for the weekend on Lake Wiley. They were calling for 50-plus mile-an-hour winds. So they just went ahead and called that. We were talking off camera, guys, and, you guys can comment below on this right here. I don't really remember here in Central Virginia, and I've been doing this for 17 years now, this many tournaments scheduled in February. I mean, we already had 2. We got 2 for this past weekend. We actually had 3 tournaments this past weekend, scheduled. So usually for us, it's always the first or middle of March. There's a tournament. I just, guys, like we were saying, I don't believe it's safe. I ain't gonna lie. I just, there's the unknown is too unknown this time of the year. I mean, I've sat in a football game where it snowed first half and rained the second half. It's just the unknown, you know what I'm saying? I mean, my opinion is not safe, but hey, you do you, and please be safe and make sure you wear your life jacket I'm sorry, if it's below 50 degrees outside and the water temperature is definitely below 4, it's around 40 degrees on Smith Mountain Lake, I've been told. You should have your life jacket almost on all the time. It don't take much to go down.
Everybody should. I mean, at this point, like we were talking about off camera, getting back in is going to be a nightmare. But getting back in with no help, nobody around,
And, those life jackets, guys, now, you can buy a life jacket for little or nothing. I mean, it's $100 for my life jacket. But, I mean, you can buy a life jacket for like $100, and it's so freaking nice. So, I mean, pick up a life jacket. Go ahead.
And I would suggest, this is just something I learned from the kayak crew, is getting the full dry suit. I've seen guys use them. I've seen guys demonstrate them. When you jump in, it will keep you above the water, and they are a little bit expensive, but
yes.
What's the price in your life?
I was going to say, grass, the bass boat, the kayak, the motor.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, your life. I think it's I'd much rather spend it on my life at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do a lot of winter fishing down here, so we're lucky enough that most time it doesn't freeze over, except some of those higher, smaller no wake or electric motor only lakes. So yeah, I try to at least keep my inflatable, I call them my suspenders, even though they're not holding anything up. They're just
yeah, because there are a couple different.
I get that joke.
Will auto inflate. There are a couple of suits itself that will auto inflate as soon as you hit the water. The whole entire suit. So
Absolutely.
I mean, look, like Paul said, you guys look into that. All right, guys. Before we dive into Paul, please head on over and become a member of our Patreon. Patreon members get early access to all the shows, as well as commercial free. And when we hit 25 Patreons total, we're going to start doing some giveaways. So we got a great discount going on right now through February. It's 25% off your first month. And then I think after that, it goes back up to like $5.95 or something like that a month. And we drop a show every week. And that is for Basscast Radio, as well as before the first cast. And next week, this week, guys, because it's drop on Monday, but Wednesday, we're going to have a Patreon only members show with Mr. Martin Villa. I don't know if you had the opportunity to interview him, Mr. Thomas, but we went back here in the cold, dark room and did a little interview, because the only place we could find quiet at an expo. And Thomas, I didn't want to hear what you had to say back here. It was like, what the hell?
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, we don't want to say that. It was funny, though. But we had a great interview with him. We talked about four-face sonar. We talked about the periods and how it was, how it was stacked up where you could use your forward-facing sonar, just one period. And it's a great freaking conversation. So, again, Patreon members only show. We're going to try to drop at least one of these a month. If I can do more, that's great. But at least one a month for you guys on top of the regular like I said, no commercial shows and early access to the show. So, Paul, what is up, my brother? Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Just rig it for you
Oh,
guys who are watching on
absolutely.
YouTube. It's right there behind his freaking head. Martinsville, Virginia. I've spent hours, days, weeks, months in Martinsville, Virginia. That's where my old man was from. And Paul does some amazing work. And we're gonna get him to talk about what he does first and what he's doing. And then we're gonna talk about this war going on right now with the electronics. And, guys, I don't care if you hate them or like them, they're here to stay. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, so we're located in Martinsville. We do, we're a rigging shop. We're also a manufacturer where we do a bunch of CNCing. So we make a bunch of different products, mounts, adapters, plates, dashes, all kinds of stuff. We can make just about anything within reason. We make a set of steps and all kinds of stuff like that. But our biggest thing, is in the electronics industry. Anything that works with the electronics is what we're making. So yeah.
So, guys, off camera, man, he's talking to us about kayaks. For all you kayak guys out there, don't want to cut a hole in your kayak, and you're afraid you might cut the wrong hole, and then you're gonna get water in it. This man knows what he's doing with kayaks as well as bass boats. So you can take your kayak dinner and drop it off, and he will get you rigged up, run all them cables all through all the crevices and the holes down the side and all that good stuff, and get you rigged up for the 2025 season. So we talked about earlier, man, price war going on right now in electronics. I know there's a couple new systems that are coming out. What is happening, man? You're telling me that people dropping prices, raising prices. What's going on?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the only time I've ever seen it like this, I think. You have the Hummingbird Explorer coming out. That's a great unit, that's hitting the market this month. You have Garmin that just put 106 Ultra 2 bundles with LVS 34s or 126 bundles, $1,100 off of what they were. And that's not the discontinued model you were getting. It's the new one. And then you've got Lowrance blowing out the HTS Pros. They usually come out with something every, 3 years. So all of a sudden you've got sales everywhere. The time to actually rig, and this isn't a sales pitch, but if you want to save money, the time to rig is right now. It just happens to be that they're all kind of at war with each other. Mega Live 2 came out, you've got Active Target 2 out, you've got, Live Scope Plus out. I haven't seen Mega Live 2. I've got some friends that have. They say it's crazy in perspective mode. I've seen some videos of it, and it's like 360 that's live. In the shallow water when they've got fish on beds and stuff like that down in Florida right now.
What are your thoughts when we talk about the war between the units, about Helix going the way of the dodo board, being up in the great valley in the sky?
So I like the Helix. I think the problem with a Helix in today's world is it's not touchscreen. Everybody else in that price point is a touchscreen, not right or wrong whether you have to have it or not. It's just if you could buy a Garmin at the same price that's touchscreen or a Lowrance that's touchscreen, they had to do something to compete with that. To be honest, Helix has been a great unit for a long time. Mega side imaging is a great way. What was that?
Very solid unit. My old boat, I had all Helixes on it, so I had 4 of them. Very solid unit.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, go for it.
You're fine, man.
I got one on the front of my boat now with a 360. I won't get rid of.
Yeah.
I like my 360. I like my Helix. It doesn't have to be touchscreen, so I could give a crap.
Yep.
And it's a good image.
It is a really good image, and that's what's so fascinating. And I don't want this to be the whole argument, but I'd love to have someone about this to talk to. That is one of their most reliable things besides the Ultrex that they've made. And
yes,
if the reason they're getting rid of it because people over 50, the same people that complain about forward-facing sonar and technology, are also complaining like, I want this to be touchscreen. It's a kind of interesting dynamic there.
So I'm going to say this, and I really hope I'm not wrong, because Hummingbird will wreck me if I'm wrong with this. I think that the Explorer is the replacement for the Helix, but I think it's going to be the reliable unit. What they've done to it, they haven't made it a Solex or an Apex when you have so much going on that you're trying to process. I think what they really did was make an upgraded housing that is a better housing. It's not plastic, The new cover, I've actually got one in the shop. I was going to stick on the boat, and I hadn't gotten there yet. The new cover on it's a lot better. The housing's a lot better. I love the bracket on it. I used to hate the little plastic bracket of the Helix. That was the one complaint that I had. The unit was twice the size of the bracket. So now you have that metal bracket that comes with it. But I think you're going to see that the Explorer is the reliability of Humminbird. I think that's the whole purpose behind it.
I
And
really
it's
hope.
user friendly. You can actually, if you have 3 waypoints, this is really cool. If you have 3 waypoints on a point, you want to share it, you can literally circle that and share it and grab those 3 waypoints and share it to your phone and then share it
Yeah.
off of that.
So I heard that they had upgraded their waypoint management, because that's always been, I've had pretty much every unit that I think has ever existed. So, Lowrance has always led in the waypoint management area.
Yes.
Garmin is probably the worst at this point, but I'd heard that they had really done some upgrade to their waypoint management. Do you know a little bit about that? Kind of share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it, but from what I've been told, we've had a lot of conversations on it. My understanding is it's a lot easier to get it off the unit to get it somewhere else now. And whether it's going to you or your fishing partner, that's a big one for me. And if people don't realize this, you don't have to share Humminbird to Humminbird for waypoints. You can go in and you can actually drop it down in your screen, depending on which unit you have as to where it is. You can take a Humminbird waypoint over to Lowrance or Lowrance to a Humminbird. So at that point, if it makes it easier to remove it, I think that's what Humminbird did with the Explorer, is made it a lot more user friendly. And like I said, you can almost bundle them. If they're on one point, you can grab and send those 3. Or if there's one cove, you want to send 3 spots in. So I think the whole point for them was management of that.
Isn't that an amazing acknowledgement on corporate to say, like, we want this to have some kind of compatibility with the other rivals, because we know people are not going to just use specifically our units. That's interesting.
I do. Oh, I think Hummingbird's good with that, especially. Well, and I think they're all good with that. I think the biggest thing is if you're fishing with any guys, they're never going to have the same units.
No.
So at least that way you can share it between it.
We saw that in like a couple of years ago. John Cruz and a couple of different anglers like that were using 2 or 3 different units, and they actually said, Cruz told me specifically that he had a deal with, I can't remember if it was Lowrance or Humminbird, one of them, but he got out of the whole entire contract because he wanted to run all 3 units.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
I'm not going to say who it was, but you're right.
There's no doubt, right now, Hummingbird's mapping system is the best out there. I know some people are still going to argue with me that Lowrance, maybe their down is still the best, but I don't know if I could say that anymore. I think Lowrance might be the one that they need something. They need to step up somewhere. They may be the one that, in my opinion, is falling behind. But back to the waypoint management, with Garmin, I mean, you can only do 1,500 waypoints on a Garmin. I run all Garmin. So you pretty much have to have a card for every lake. Not that I have 1,500 waypoints on them, but I mean, you're better off doing it that way than saving them to the head unit, because you're going to run out of so much space. So if you fish 30 lakes, you pretty much have to have 30 cards. That's how everybody I know does it. So
who has the best external GPS puck? Do you think it's Lowrance with their Spot 1? Because I don't like Humminbirds as much, or I have a bad puck. It could be that too. But I used to run Lowrance in college, and that sucker, you could line that thing up on a quarter.
Yeah, I like the point 1. I'm not gonna lie, I like Garmin's point 1 on that.
Yeah.
But think about it. The advanced GPS technology that they're using in live scope, I think, took them a long ways with directionals and stuff like that. That I think that's why they have a really good one. I think they all make a good one, but I think Garmin right now for me just seems to be really spot on.
Yeah. But again, Garmin's really not a marine. This is one of the biggest reasons why I went with Garmin, was because I'd heard from several, because again, I've run Lowrance, and I ran them for a long time, and it seemed like if I had 3 units, one of them was never working right for me. I run birds for a long time, and it seemed like one of them was never working right for me. And the Garmin's, I'd heard a lot of people say, look, Garmin's are probably the most reliable out there, and it's because they're a aviation company. Right. And so, of course, their GPS is going to be probably a little bit better than I think. I think I'd have to rank Lowrance's as second, but yeah, I'm with you, Thomas. I think Hummingbird's got a little. I don't know.
And it's interesting because that's where the competition is fascinating, because for Lowrance and Hummingbird, this is their bread and butter. Garmin could quit making fishing tomorrow, and it wouldn't hurt their bottom line very much at all.
Yeah. Garmin took over. Well, especially, I come from saltwater and freshwater. We had a lot of them in saltwater. They make great saltwater. And what's funny is we're bringing them to freshwater. The 8600 series, the 9700 series. It's amazing to see what we're seeing now. But, it's crazy. All of a sudden they jumped in a bass game, and it was like, look, this is what we're doing. And I don't care what anyone else is doing. We're going to sell touchscreens at $9.99. And it was like, this is insane. They definitely, when they came in, they made waves on purpose.
No doubt.
What do you think of this next evolution with, I guess, NBT, where you can now run a 32-inch plasma screen touch on the front of your boat?
So it's interesting. We run stuff like that in like a Hatteras or a Viking. We'll put big screens out so that the guys can see them from the back or through the window. I hate to say this. I just had this conversation last night. I've got a 1643 XSV on the front of the boat for my live scope.
It's okay.
I was trying to figure it gets way worse. It gets way worse. So I just did that, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna put all these Explorers on and stuff. Then I'm like, damn, I got screens everywhere, and I'm tired of having them. So I'm moving the 1643 the console. I'm going with an RMP Flex 19. I am doing it. I don't know about putting these 30-inch. I don't know where we have to pick it up and then strap it with your rods in order to go to another freaking spot. But I think that, a couple years ago, or I guess last year, I do think the elites got carried away, y'all. Putting 5 or 6 freaking units on, and then having 3 or 4 black boxes.
Yeah,
it's listen, 100%, especially like where I'm at. I fish South Holston, and we're fishing. I'm fishing 120 feet out and 80 to 100 feet deep for smallmouth. Yeah. And being able to see those little bitty dots down there, you have to crank up, your gain and crank up your settings so much to be able to see them and see your bait well. That and I'm running 12, so I'm running the 126S, SVs, the Gen 1s right now, which I hope that's getting ready to change. But it's
I get it.
Do what?
I get it. No, I get it.
The bigger screen, it helps a ton, especially in that deep water. Now, if they're 15 feet deep, it's not really that big of a deal, No. But that 12 is just fine. But a 16, I jumped on my buddy Todd's boat, and he had a big 16, and I was like, geez, this is so nice.
Oh, it's a different game, dude.
Yeah.
I haven't had mine very long. I did the same thing you did. I said,
I hadn't seen a 16 in person, and then when I seen it and had to go back to my 12, there was some envy there.
Yeah, but you can see so much better.
I'll tell this story, and then everybody can make fun of me, but I'll make fun of myself anyway. So I put the 1643 on last fall. We had a 2-day tournament. I called my fishing partner. I said, hey, I'm going to go out on Friday. I'm going to dial this thing in real quick. And I felt so stupid by the end of the day. But going from a 12 to a 16, I went out there, and I'm like, oh, here's a brush pile with some fish. I'm going to grab a drop shot, see what it does, because I still got a pre-fish. I threw it in there, and I'm watching it, and it's pretty thick, so I'm kind of seeing my bait come through. It comes out, and I'm like, oh, a fish followed it. I moved it a little bit more. Oh, a fish is still following it. And then I said, damn, I'm going to pick it up and kind of move it a little bit. And then I realized I'm not looking at a fish. That damn 6-inch robo worm was so big on that screen, I thought it was a fish. No joke. It was just so much different. I felt like an idiot. So that all weekend, I didn't know if I'm looking at a 2-pound fish or a 5-pound fish on that screen.
That is crazy.
Well,
Oh,
and that's
it's insane.
and that's the epiphany I had when I went out on my friend's boat who had a 15-inch screen and stuff. Is this is another advantage the youth have, because I'm sorry, if you're 21 years old and you still got great eyesight, you can be on that 10-inch screen and see stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're Rick Clum that's 110, you're not going to see crap on a 10-inch screen. And that's no knock on him, but that's where that big screen stuff really comes into play as you get older, just to get that separation. And to see that shit, it's so hard on that tinier screen.
And, and maybe this is just a YouTube angler's issue, but I really don't believe it is. I think there's a lot of guys that like to record their deal. I don't understand, like on the Echo Maps, and I run so right now, I bought my boat in 2023, and it's it's got 3 of the Gen 1 Echoes, and I put a 12 GPS map 1222 on front, so I could record onto my active captain. Now the Gen 2 Echo Maps, they'll record, but the problem is for some reason, now I didn't have this problem with my 1022 that I had on the other boat, but I still can't record. I wish they'd just put, why are we not just putting some sort of HDMI or video port out on these things? I mean, everybody knows, even the pros, to hook it up to TV, that's the next step. The MPFL's done showed that, we're starting to see that in Bassmaster. But for some reason, so Paul, I'm going to throw a problem at you. See if you can answer this for me. My 1222, every time I turn on my active captain, there's no network or other than that, no anything, all the other network stuff's cut off. It starts getting glitchy. So I can't record my stuff in deep water right now because it gets glitchy, and it'll literally pixelize, and I don't know what's going on. The graph itself it's like as soon as you cut that, you start recording. You ever seen that before?
Yeah. Have you tried? It's going to sound. When's the last time you done an update?
Actually,
nobody likes that word.
Oh no, I'm pretty good. I think Garmin does a good job with their updates, so I keep them updated. But it's been a minute. But when I first discovered the problem, it was up to date. I'd run some updates that had just come out, and it didn't fix it.
So they had an issue with that. They did have an issue with that at one time, or I think they did.
I probably need to update it then.
Well, and I was going to say, I have heard this before where it gets glitchy. And it's funny. I've heard it on the, like you said, the 1222s, not the 8612s.
Yeah.
And they're 2 different processors, I believe, that you've got going on there. And I just wonder, it's kind of funny that you say that, because you can take like a 1243 or 1222. And when you get into real shallow water, do you notice it does the same thing? You don't even need active captain. You'll watch it start glitching.
Yeah. It'll pixelize. It'll just kind of blow out once in a while. But, like my 1022, my original one that I had on my other boat didn't do that. So, other than that, as long as I don't turn it on, it seems fine. But once you start getting to where there's latency in it, you just can't keep up. You can't keep up with the fish. So,
and you've got
drives a content maker like me nuts. So,
absolutely
crazy.
But you have that standalone, right? There's no network.
Nothing. It's standalone. I've got the heavy gauge run like 8 gauge wire to it. So I don't know. Figured I'd throw that out there. That was one of those things. Figured I had you cornered. I was like, I'm gonna ask you.
No, that's the first thing I would try. Dude, I can when we reach out to Garmin almost daily on certain things. So I definitely wouldn't mind scouting at them and seeing if they say anything. I do, like I said, I remember that though. I feel like there was an issue at a certain point there when you were trying to record through active captain. It was like glitching the processor. It wasn't slowing it down. It was like it was having a communication issue. And I think they fixed it with an update, if I'm not making sure. But I'll check for sure.
Well, knock on wood, we got another Camus fully rigged coming. So
there we go.
Mic drop.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Speaking of updates, I've heard some rumors that there is an issue. I think it's with both transducers when they hit like the 2-year mark. That some of them will just lose bottom. Is that something that you're seeing too coming through your shop?
It is. I hate to say it, it is right now, and I don't know what's going on. I've been told the update fixes it, and then I've seen where it doesn't with certain ones. So some of it's where the transducers are being replaced. Some of them aren't. Some of them are right out of warranty, and we're getting hammered on it.
Oh,
And it is what actually happens is you'll end up seeing your depth go, and then like you said, the bottom will start, and it'll actually rock. It
yeah.
doesn't just move; it'll rock like you're on a freaking boat in the ocean. And what's funny is to fix it. I mean, I'm not going to say fix it. You can go in and turn the advanced heading off, and then adjust it where it's flat. If you know you're flat somewhere, you can adjust it, and then it works perfectly fine after that. Until the unit goes out if it's a bad unit. Now they did have an update for that as well. Again, I hate that word, but in this situation, they had an update that was fixing a lot of that.
Hmm.
And I've had guys tell me to do the update. Of course, we'll get a phone call from one of our guys, and then we'll say, "Hey, do this update real quick." This is what we were told. Then they do the update, and then they're like, "Hey, it still didn't work." But I went over to 2D and I used my LBS 34 in 2D real quick, and then I took it back, and it's been great ever since. So I mean, it's kind of weird with I think what they had going on there at that time. But yeah, I've heard a lot of it. We have seen it. We've been replacing some transducers right in that window of time. You're 100% correct.
I hope it's not because they're building in some kind of because they don't want this technology to last forever. You've heard businesses doing that crap before.
Yeah, Apple with their batteries.
And Basky brought it up. I was going to say Apple is probably the king for that. I mean, if you get 4 years out of an Apple iPhone, they want you to have a new phone, and the battery will just die, and it's won't charge more or whatever. But Apple has been, is the king of it. I hate to say it, but they really are.
So the only thing I'm going to give Garmin the benefit of the doubt, because damn, those LBS 32s are still everywhere on everybody's boat, and the only reason they're getting replaced is because the guy wants a 34.
Yep.
Very rarely do I have somebody come in and say, "Hey man, my LBS 32 went out. Can we upgrade?" It's I want an LBS 34.
I've always wondered if sometimes it's these updates are the problem. Like if you just kept it a dumb unit,
they can be.
Yeah.
We've had to revert back. They absolutely can be. They wrote an update that they created another problem as they were fixing one.
Do you think maybe it's more like, there's always, a first run, a second run. Maybe it's something like that because, basically all they're doing is pushing out more power through that transducer. So
yes,
you wonder if maybe the first series or the first
generation.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, absolutely. They're never going to tell us this, but obviously, I'm going to tell you. In my world, the more brackets we've made, the better they've gotten. The more anything we've made, the better we've gotten. And we're a little tiny thing, so you can only imagine what they're not going to tell you that they made better as they were making. It's kind of like they went from a 2-wire to a single wire in LBS 32 to 34.
Well, I think to add to that, Brian, this is something we had Blood Spates on, and with the COVID year. As materials got more expensive, they had used different materials. You wonder when you said first generation, is there a difference in quality between pre-COVID year stuff, during it when they had it, and then post-COVID when you didn't have necessarily the best stuff to make your product with? We'll never know, but that is interesting.
Yeah, well, it's actually interesting you say that. I agree with you probably there.
And then, there's always that Friday crew at 5 o'clock that, what I'm saying? I work manufacturing. I know what we do.
Ready to go home.
Get it done. Yeah, it's done. It's done.
Yep. We'll deal with it Monday, but today we got to go.
So, Paul, it's a new year, man. It's 2025. Like you said, new units are coming out. What are you seeing that some of these anglers need to watch for that are going to be coming out in these newer units that are going to help them catch more bass? Because that's what we're all about here at Basscast Radio.
Man, so it's crazy. I think you could pick a different unit from a different brand for everything. Geek was saying that Humminbird has the best maps. Man, I love their maps. Ever since they did Lake Master, they were the first ones that you could change colors in, so not everything was blue. I'll never forget it. I was down in Gunnersville. I'm trying to find the grass line that's 8 to 10 feet. Is where it starts to stop. And you get the clumpiness where you're gonna catch them on the outside. And I got to do that on the Helix, and I was like, holy crap! I mean, this is amazing. I'm gonna win. I didn't win, but that was besides the point. We had a great time being able to do it. And I still think they do. They have great maps. They're mega
Yeah.
side imaging. I'm going to tell you, for somebody to compete against that mega side imaging they got, they're going to have to rock the world to do it. The
Mhm.
360 is a huge help. I think the
Yes.
biggest thing that the guys need to worry about is, depending on what fishing tournament you're fishing. You were talking about forward facing sonar and the period you could use it, when you can use it, when you can't. You have certain tournaments that go by their own rules. You have a lot of tournaments that go by Bass's rules. And this is a question I keep asking, is if I'm fishing an event that might not be a Bass event, but they go by Bass's rules, is it still one transducer?
Mhm.
I think you're going to see more of that. You know what I mean? Where that's going to get defined down at our weekend warrior level, and
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think that, I mean, you know what I mean. And I do think that the 360 is going to make a huge comeback. I've always loved it. Some people hate it. Be honest, I think you have a hard time reading it until you understand what it is. But if you can only have one live, then the 360 is kind of the way to go. You get the best of both worlds on the bow of the boat.
Yeah, I just wish
You, you
they would have updated that earlier. It took so long to get Mega 360, so long.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Mega 360, I don't know if anyone had the first 360.
I
Dude, those
did.
are two complete different products. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I look at Mega
Well,
360 and I'm like, holy shit, I know what's here.
Yeah.
and I'll
Um,
be honest with you, like the one thing about the 360, like where I'm at, everything's like this, and it's
yeah,
hard rock, so it's really not. It's
yeah,
just even perspective mode. Like I've played with perspective mode some, and
useless for
you
you.
know even on it just blows everything out,
Yeah.
and on the 360. And now you get down on the Tennessee River,
Mhm.
Chick, Fort Loud, and all that. Now it's great.
Wow.
You're out there ledge fishing because it's a lot flatter. But
Right.
up here in the mountains, man,
But
it's totally useless.
Tidal
Absolutely.
Potomac is my home water, so I will vouch.
So
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
perspective 360 is king.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and with 360, if you're up in the Potomac, I mean, most people don't realize, if you're following a grass edge, it's not
Oh
straight.
yeah.
It moves, and if you run over it, you've already scared those fish. You might as well pack up and go
Mhm.
away. So knowing that that's coming ahead of time, where you got to kick out a
Yeah.
little bit to stay on your grass edge, or whatever, your lily pads, or anything that you have submerged. I say lily pads as they're above water, but anything you have submerged like that, your eelgrass, your hydrilla,
Right.
your milfoil. I mean, it's a game changer to have that. You were talking about Chick. I love Chick. I love Gunnersville.
Yeah.
And I come from Smith Mountain Lake, so clear, deep water, which is fun. But man, I really like that grass, and hopefully catching a big fish.
Mhm.
But it's a huge game changer for that. And I do agree, though, and I think this is why the guys here, you don't see but so many 360s. Smith Mountain Lake's 150, 200 foot.
Yeah.
Philpott, same way. Now you get down to like Kerr and Gaston, and it becomes a way different game.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing with it, and I learned this from all the crappie guys I cover, it's so easy to visualize and pinpoint your targets. So when you have that thing, if you guys don't know, you don't have to point the trolling motor with 360. It just
Yeah.
winds like a periscope all the way around, or a lighthouse. And so once it does a full rotation, you'll be lined up with grid lines of how far away things are. And if you see something cool, point the trolling motor at it, and then you'll get a 3D cut split like that. It is so nice to be going down the bank and just to know I don't have to point the trolling motor. I can do my own thing. And if I see something funky off to the left or the right of the boat, I can pause for a minute, let it refresh, and see if it's something I want to go after. And that's so nice to have.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we do a lot of point fishing. Going up on the points, you might have 3 or 4 stumps or 2 or 3 rock piles, and you might have scanned it and noticed that you had one, but missed those. So
Mhm.
sitting there, I might be live scoping one on the right side, and I look down at the 360, and I'm like, hey, there's one over here. Let me go see if the fish are here. Because they move on those points like that.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like I said, it's definitely something that I love. Not everybody loves it. It's side imaging that moves for you, is what it is.
Yes. Yes.
Because you can't have side imaging up front. They're going to kill me for this. They make a side imaging transducer for your trolling motor, MSI, in the new Quest. I don't understand. The only way that works is if you don't move that head. Every time you move it, you affect it. You have no idea where it's looking at. Yeah, blur it. And even if you don't cut that far, you have no idea what you're looking at. It comes straight down on the screen compared to where you're pointed on the trolling motor.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that evolves, because if they could come out with it with some AI to scrub it to make a third generation to clean it up while you're moving, that would be a major game changer, especially if you, for the kayak guys and the John boat guys, where you don't have the ability to sit behind a console necessarily, just idle. 360 is a game changer for you.
I didn't even think about that, actually.
You don't have room for all the extra stuff that you can put on a bass boat as well. I mean, when you're looking just to pick one system, or, Paul's mentioned earlier, and we've seen on some of the newer kayaks, a lot of guys are running 2 different systems. Yeah. You only have so much room.
Yeah. So
we did talk about earlier, the kayak world. The kayak world's changing. It's getting freaking bigger and bigger. What tip or something that you could recommend for that kayak angler, Paul, that's going to update their boat this year, that you could say, hey, we're going to help you catch more fish in 2025?
Man, for the kayaks, I hate to promote sales, but dude, Garmin's got those bundles, the 106 bundle with the LBS 34 for what you want on a kayak. You're getting live scope and your screen. If you've got other stuff on there and you're already in a kayak, that's one thing. But as we talked off air, I got a buddy's kayak actually parked here at the house. I got to take down tomorrow. Brand new kayak. He said, "What do I do with it?" And I'm like, "Well, do you want live scope?" Of course, that was probably a dumb question for who I was asking. Yeah. He was like, "Obviously." So we ordered a 106 bundle. It's $24.99. You can't beat it. It's 3,500, 3,600 normally. So I think if anything, if you're trying to upgrade and put live scope, it's there. And then we're putting a little 1630 powerhouse lithium in it. Makes it where it's light. You're not having to carry a huge extra battery in the kayak. Especially in that world, I think weight makes a big difference. He's got a 27 AGM running the trolling motor. So it allowed us to pull those 2 apart and him still have what he wanted with no interference or killing a battery.
Because most of these kayaks, guys, we know the limit's only about 500 pounds. So the weight limit total on most of these kayaks. And I ain't said all of them, but most of them.
What are you talking about?
And then, like you said, once we put all these electronics we're putting on it, and then, the batteries that have to go and control all this stuff. I mean, we're tipping right here at the very top of some of these numbers.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
No, and that's what I was going to say. I think that's why that bundle is important. You're going to get a side imaging you got to order a side imaging transducer. It doesn't come with a bundle, but you're going to get side imaging, down imaging, your chirp 2D, whatever you want, depending on what somebody wants. You're going to get your live scope. You're getting your screen. You're getting everything that you could possibly need without having to put multiple units on, unless you want to be specific. And then when we see people be specific, it's an Explorer and a Garmin, and they got 360 on it, like you said, and they got live scope. And that's what they're running. And then we're running a 1660 instead of a 1630. And that way they don't have any issues, and you're still at 21 pounds or something like that.
Pretty good.
So it helps a lot.
You mentioned off air just something I thought was really enlightening, where if you had to work on a boat and a kayak, it's basically the work and money in it is very different on your end, isn't it?
So it is. I mean, well, I'm going to say this. It depends on what they're doing to it. But if you think about it, we make a 6-gauge harness that's made by us. It's actually getting ready to go out on the market. We use it in the boats now, kind of like a Sea Clear or Sonar Pro is one of those guys. Hennessy does one. But anyway, we got to pull that thing from the back of the boat to the console, from the back of the boat to the front of the boat. I mean, you get into a kayak, it's a whole lot different. It's way easier to outfit. I think the biggest thing with a kayak that we're seeing is that we're noticing, and I'm going to watch how I say this. We don't build a lot of plastic parts. If we build something that's out of marine board, because it's flat, like a dash,
right,
or an adapter bracket. But when we go into mounts, they're all aluminum. I'm seeing a whole lot of like molded stuff on a kayak that for the mounts and stuff. And that's actually why we've kind of got into it. We're making a new T thing that fits in them,
Mm.
but that way, I hate to say it, it's way easier to rig it. But I think there's something in there. If I got a 106 a live scope, maybe an Explorer 10 and 360, man, I mean, you rack up a lot of money in that kayak that already cost you a pretty penny. I don't want to rip it off because I got it hung in a tree while I was landing a bass. So that's one thing we've noticed in the kayak industries that we're trying to change a little bit is bringing that aluminum to the kayak a little bit more than you see currently because it's light as well.
And this connects back to what Brian said about weight in the kayaks. And
Yeah.
I said it a couple of times. I know I've gotten quite amount of lovely emails from people, but they're going to become tiny plastic boats. That's where we're headed. If you look at what Wilderness has, Bonafide, that Brazilian boat I shared offline, they're going to be who will make the first legit 15-foot kayak? Let's just say it, because they're cheaper. You can pimp it out with all the bells and whistles. And that's really, at this point, that's the difference maker. It's not having a 250 on the back of your boat. It's do you have scope? Do you have the electronics? That's the difference between catching a fish and not.
But a lot of times these guys are whooping our rear end because they can get into places we can't quietly.
Oh,
I mean these kayaks in the backwaters and stuff. I keep bringing up Florida or Gunnersville or that. I literally, man, I was livid. I was livid at this dude that he did it to me, but at the same time I couldn't reach it. I'm sitting here fishing the point of this grass, and I'm throwing as far as I can in there. And him and his little kayak went right across the edge and caught the fish I couldn't reach because it was 20 feet past where I could get. And I mean, and it works. I mean, he just drove straight in there, caught a couple, and drove out. And I had some words I'd love to say, but yeah, I mean, you can get into some places with those things you can't. And as far as the kayak being a 15-footer, the other thing you have is crazy. We talked about this off air is the tiny boat community.
Yeah.
That's massive right now. But can you imagine a molded boat that size that you don't have to do all that work to? That you're not taking a John boat and aluminum framing everything to make decks.
Yeah.
And that's something that's interesting that you enlightened me on before we recorded, that they can be almost as stable or more stable than a John boat.
Oh, absolutely. I'm telling you, I was in one not long ago. I'd say a year or two ago. And I'm a big boy, fellas. I mean, I am. and to frickin' be able to stand up in it and not panic when I cast. Especially as somebody's probably watching me, I'm like, oh great, let me flip this freaking thing over. Somebody's probably creating content behind me is the problem. So
if I remember correctly, I think I saw Iconelli and his son in one the other day on his social media. He has in one of them small boats.
Yep.
And but yeah, the me and Geek, we saw we got introduced to the small boat world. I think it was last year, the year before last. I can't remember. At the Tennessee show. And guys, this thing was, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I was sitting there trying to figure out where the fuck I was gonna put this on, bitch. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I was like sitting there in my head, like, this thing is amazing. I mean, it was like $2,000 or less or somewhere around there. You got an electronic motor in the back. You take the head off, the top head off, take it inside and charge it. It lasted like pretty much all day. And then you had, put your trolling motor up front. And then in the middle of this thing, guys, this thing packed 3 times the gear that's in my buddy's 25 horsepower aluminum or fiberglass boat from like Bass Pro Shop or something for like 1/3 of the price. And that was plastic. It was rubber. But it's like you could put so much stuff in this thing. And I mean, it kept it dry. I mean, the seat opened up and it was like just nothing but room.
Well, the one you shared off air was crazy. Holy crap. It looked like it had a front deck and it had full compartment doors. I mean, it was, it was really one of those tiny boats we're talking about. Like I was saying, instead of that John boat that you're having a weld, man, it's already in there for you. And it's light because it's injected molded, like you said earlier. I mean, you get so much out of them.
Yeah, it's just fascinating, these niches, because I remember going down to ICAST when I first did and talking to Jeff Little down there when he was with Torquedo and talked about the biggest markets for Torquedo at the time for bass fishing was Georgia and the Virginia, North Carolina area. And he said that's because there's so many electric motor only lakes and electric motor only tours. And as more and more lakes have these restrictions put on them, this is where we're going to go. And I do feel like more than ever, I know this is another show topic, but there's going to be more fragmentation. You're going to have the kayak, the tiny boats, and then you'll have the 1%ers that can afford, you know, the IKEA boats. But that's just where we're headed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one that's gotten massive.
The market is so diverse right now, and it is so freaking crazy. And, you know, like I said, the kayak, we saw the explosion of the kayak series and the tournament series over the last couple of years. The college has a kayak Bassmaster kayak series now that was introduced. And that right there was like, it blew my mind. I ain't gonna lie. We're like, where this came out of left freaking field. Where did this happen? So there's just it's a dream time for justrigit.com.
Yeah.
Which will be out soon, guys. He's working on the website.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's a dream time right now for Just Rig It. I mean, we got kayak. I mean, you make, you know, a bass boat, John boat, kayak, a miniature boat. I mean,
oh, you're gonna laugh. I got a Sea-Doo coming because it has a Garmin built in. The guy needs help with.
Well,
I forgot about a damn jet ski. I never thought I'd see that in my life.
Sea-Doo released a fishing jet ski. What was it, a year or two ago?
Right?
No, yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's got an EchoMap 7 in it. Mm-hmm. You know, and he was like, "Hey, it's losing power every time I'm driving it," which obviously I'm assuming is a connection, right? You know, but yeah, I mean, who in the world? And he was like, "Hey, can you work on my Sea-Doo?" And I've got it his other boat right now. Actually, he just did a really cool thing on a Ken Craft. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't know whether you might want to know or not. You know, he's got an EchoMap 9 that was built into that thing. He striper fishes a lot. You know, so he's got a riptide up front. He wanted that up front. And Garmin's got this cool little plate that you can make a connector and actually unscrew it to remove your trolling motor. So you don't have to run live scope straight to your GLS 10 box. So that was a cool install. But anyway, in the middle of that, he was like, can I bring my Sea-Doo? And I was like, man, we don't work on anything that has to do with motors and stuff. And he's like, no, it's got an EchoMap in it. I'm thinking, holy crap, where have we gotten to? Which is awesome for us. Yeah, to be honest, if we can do it, if we can work on it, we'll work on it.
Yeah, that was Geek, like Geek said, that came out a couple years ago. That was pretty freaking awesome. Where, you know, on a freaking Sea-Doo, because they saw another industry out there, and you know, they introduced that, and there was it Sea-Doo or another one? There was another company, and this has probably been more than 5 years ago. They came out with like some type of fishing, boating, all in one. Yep. Remember, I think it was powered by Sea-Doos or something like that, or something. It was.
Yeah.
You know,
Sea-Doo had almost it looked like a 4-seater. You know, it was wide. It was wide. It was wider in the back. Actually had compartments, and that's what started. That's what started their fishing stuff. I'm going to say that I might be wrong, but to me, that's what started it. All of a sudden, you had a platform. Look at the guys now down in the South. I don't know if y'all see this or not. It'd actually be interesting to see if you see it on the Potomac. You know, when I'm in like Harris Chain or Kissimmee and that going through the locks and stuff, you'll see Sea-Doos come and they got platforms on the back with gas cans. Yes. You know, because they're going from you know, from the east side of Florida to the west side of Florida as far as they can.
There's a lot of them that are using those to fish those canals down there. I've seen a couple of YouTubers that are doing that now.
Yeah, but having the capability of maps. You know, if you're going to jump from lake to lake and not know where you're at, man, that'd be huge for me. You know, I'd get lost in Walmart if I couldn't find an exit sign. So, awesome. I'm horrible. Oh,
guys. Like Paul said, man, the future is bright for Just Rig It and all the great capabilities he has and how he can go. You know, he's got all. I mean, because I met Paul a couple years ago, and last year Paul bought a brand new machine. He said it's like the size of my house. And it can pretty much do everything. So, I mean, this guy, like I said, if you bring down your boat, get it in early before the season starts, guys, and he can make sure he can rig from the front to the back so you can walk out the door and be ready to hit the water and hopefully land some of those giant 10-pound bass we're going to have on before the first cast, and that'll be out by now already. But we saw a 10-pounder, guys, by the way, came out of Smith Mountain Lake over the weekend. But
wow, did we? I missed that.
Yes, we had a 10-pounder come out. Wasn't during the tournament,
Wow.
but he weighed it twice, and I know both of these men right here, and they're probably some of the most honest kids ever. They're great young men, extremely good young men.
I've been waiting for it. You knew it was coming. These F1s are just, man, they're explosive. So
we'll wrap it up with this final question. We know the sky's the limit. There's so much happening. There's so much banning. There's so much. You can only use it one period. There's a new, the NPFL went, you couldn't use it at all. Bassmaster just gave them the key to the Golden City. I think they just shrunk down, I think, on the monitor size, didn't they? Isn't that what Bassmaster did?
Yeah, they did
and
some
one unit.
One
right.
transducer.
Where do we see this whole thing going? I mean, where is there going to be a point where it's enough is enough? We got to get back to the basics, man. I mean, or get close to the basics. What's your take?
I mean, for me, I think we need to hit a pause and a timeout. We don't need to go any further than where we are. I didn't personally like the live imaging on the back of the boat. I don't like having all these live scopes all over. And I'm going to tell you why. When the pro, we've always chased to have what the pros have.
Yeah.
But man, the battery system costs you $8,000 to run 4 freaking GLS 10 boxes. I mean, it got to where it was too far it was way too overreached for us to even be close to that. Now, we might not be the best anglers in the world, but you still try and, if they have it and it works right, that's what we want. You know, and that's what I want. I told you what I was already running and what I was doing. Yeah. We all chase that, but I can't chase that, and I'm in this industry. I can't put, $12,000-$15,000 worth of electronics on, and still you're talking at that point, you're still not talking about putting 3 or 4 boxes in there.
Yeah.
You're talking about going all lithium and putting 4 screens on a live scope. You're at 12-15 grand real quick.
Well, and the thing about that is I've always said that really electronics are more important to the weekend warrior than they are a pro, because the pros on the water 4 or 5, 6, 8 or 6, 7 days a week, So if you want to go out and catch fish and you haven't fished for a week, we all know no matter what time of year it is, those fish have moved by the time you get back out there. If you want to enjoy it, learn how to use your electronics. It's something that I've always said. It's going to make your day more enjoyable, whether you use live or whether you use 2D. It helps. It's going to help you catch fish. Yeah. Now, I want to parlay this question in. I just want to ask the straight question. You see what's going on boats every single day. You're just rigging it. So, as Thomas said earlier, he was talking about the war. So, can we officially plant the flag and say Blockett's lost the war?
Yeah, he's going there with that.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, live scope is definitely here to stay. It's not going anywhere. As much as
flag, baby, wave my flag.
I mean, as much as they wanted to, dude. You want to hit it the head on the nail. I mean, you can age bracket this thing and take it from one age group to the next, and it's exactly what it is. Your one age group hates it because it's a new toy. The other age group has had this toy in their hand forever. Since they were born. I mean, my daughter probably had an iPhone at 9 or something. When I have a problem, I go to her.
Does this generation get a discount early bird when they go to dinner?
Yes, absolutely. And then I'm gonna defend the rookies and the sophomores here. And I know I'm gonna piss off some friends, but it is what it is. I'm gonna defend them because a couple years ago, well, I'll tell you what, I signed up for the Bassmaster Open Tours in the end of 2019 to fish 2020, and we had COVID. I got to go fish Kissimmee. I thought I was good with grass. Every grass lake's different. Got my ass waxed, but it was a good time. But then the next one wasn't until like October. But it was 4 events per division, and then you made the EQs where you have to fish 9 events.
Right.
The guys that are on the top of that list fishing 9 events around the country are already fishing the same way as an elite. You're going to get a better angler. They say it's because of live scope, but I know Kyle Patrick really well. He's a friend of mine. That kid is one of the best flippers I've ever seen. He's one of the best. He's probably
Yeah.
the best skipper I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that kid can work live scope like no other, but he is absolutely not a live scoper. If you get him in upstate New York, he will wax you by being able to flip a jig. It's one of his favorite things to do, and it has nothing to do with live scope. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, he loves his live scope. Of course he does, but at the end of the day, it's just another tool. Those young bucks right there, they came in being better because of how they created the EQs. I mean,
Yep.
you got the best anglers you can get.
Mm-hmm.
So then you put them on the tour, and you wonder why all 9 of them did really well last year. It's
Yeah,
because you put them through the gauntlet before they got there.
they'll never talk about how much of a success the high school and college programs have been in cultivating this next generation.
Massive.
But we'll blame technology because it's easy. And if I was of that age, yeah, I'd be upset about that more than anything else because there was a generation before mine. Because when I did high school, it was like my college jersey says FLW to time date when I was fishing. Like it's new, and this generation here has it so easy where you get to basically go to Lake Hartwell in high school, Lake Hartwell in college for 4 years, and then you go straight to the opens. You probably know Lake Hartwell. And why are we shocked when these 22, 23-year-olds go out there and kick butt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely. And that's the only reason I bring that up. I know those guys have gotten kicked a lot, and I'm not saying that they're better at that age. I mean, one of my favorites will always be G-Man, Gerald Swindle. He's a junk fisherman or trash fisherman. He says that. That style of fishing has always worked if you can do it, and he's phenomenal at it. He'll always be phenomenal at it, which is why he still waxes people every day. So I'm not picking on age because I love him to death. I love a lot of older guys. Um, I think when you put those guys through the gauntlet, that's why they were better. I mean, trying to actually, qualify in 4 events is tough enough, but to have to do it at 9 and now go to qualifiers after that and stuff, I mean, you're making that harder than the elites at times.
You're doing exactly what every other pro sport does. You're building pros.
Yeah,
correct. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I just think
to happen.
Well, yeah, and
I just think they build a better pro now.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Because of that,
And Geek, I agree with you because you're building professional anglers because half the people in the Elite Series, they're not professional anglers. They just coast by, collect a check. And now it's like, oh, I have to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what you were supposed to do.
And 100%, because we've talked about that many times, and we've had young anglers on here and how it's a job to them. And, a lot of the older anglers, like he's going out here, a lot of the, the weekend professional anglers are getting whooped. So, I mean, we are in a new generation. I always just talk about that on the basscast.com and on my website. And I was like, it's so many, I want to improve this or I want to do this. Well, we're still on this teeter-totter. We can't go too far because, my age bracket is still 40 to 45, but now it's 40 to 45. And these guys, all have iPhones. We all have iPhones. We know a lot more than the 40, 45s when I started 10 years ago. There were 40 and 45. So, I mean, everything is changing and we're constantly improving. Paul, D, we really appreciate you coming on tonight's show and talking with us.
Oh, it was a blast. Thank you.
Where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they just rig it?
So you are right. I to be honest, we have been so slammed. I just have not gotten a darn website done. We do own justrigit.com. It'll be up shortly. You can find us on Facebook, Just Rig It Pro Marine. You can find us on Instagram, same way. You can reach out that way. You can always call. Our phone number is 540-420-2825. And then you can find a bunch of our stuff, with some other vendors that are private labeled as well. But yeah, I mean, call. We'll do anything we can, and everything we can for you. We love it. We don't have a single guy in our shop that does not fish and lie about fishing and lie about the size of fishing. And I mean, it's all. We all live it and breathe it. I think that's a big difference for us. It's not something, Jackie Gammons and I are partners, and Jackie and I decided we were going to do this because there was no one here for it. We needed
Right.
it. We needed somebody you could go to and ask the question, is this better for me or not? Instead of just selling it to you. You know, you go to a box store, they're going to sell you exactly what you asked for. Sometimes it's not what you want, or it might not even be what you need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's been our big thing is, you know, you call us, I'm going to tell you what you need. And if you want something different, we'll do it. But, you know, I get in trouble sometimes with guys. I'm like, no, this is a bad idea. Don't do this. And it's the way I'm built. I'm not going to do it if I don't believe in it. You know, if there's a better way to do it, when we're not going to skirt corners, you know, we're not the cheapest, but I'm not going to do it wrong in order to have a different price point either. You know, so if you want it done right and you want it done, you know, to the best of our ability, we're not perfect. We do make mistakes every once in a while, but you know, we'll fix those as well. So I appreciate all y'all having me on here. It's actually been a blast.
Guys, I ain't gonna lie to you. You know, there's a lot of mechanics around my neighborhood, and you know, and they're all over the place. And I've been going to the same shop for probably the last 10 years. And the coolest thing about going to the same shop is if they make a mistake, they fix it. And if it's something small, sometimes they fixed it for free. I'm just saying this just for me, but it's something about going to that local dealership, shop, vendor, whatever it is that you know on a regular basis and deal with on a regular basis. And the best thing is, you know, you're going to get better customer service than you're going to find anywhere else. And like I said, you might pay a little bit more for it on the front end, but you know, I mean, I know Paul, like if you had to come in there and get an update done real quick, he'd probably tell you this is what you got to do. Boom, 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 throw it in there. You're done. You're ready. Back out on the water because, you know, he knows that little bit right there. You're coming back. And when you're ready for the next system, you're going to call Just Rig It to get it done. So, guys,
Absolutely.
Appreciate everybody tonight. Another great episode right here at Basscast Radio. Anybody got any parting words before we hit the road?
Hopefully it gets warm enough that I don't mind fishing.
Yes.
Yeah, we are all here at the basscast.com ready for warmer weather. So,
amen.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on, March.
please,
Yes. Bag on, baby.
Please come soon. Please come soon. All right, guys. Like I said, have a great night, everyone. Thank you all for listening. Paul, agree. Thank you for coming on, talking to us about electronics. I'd love to get you back on again, maybe a little bit further in the year, see how things are changing. And like I said,
Absolutely.
the ever-changing world of electronics. And thank you, guys.
Thank y'all very much. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.